I gripped the steering wheel so hard my knuckles turned white, the hum of the rental car's engine barely drowning out the thud of my heart. The San Diego skyline blurred past, a glittering maze of glass towers and palm trees, but all I could see was the ghost of that night in Kabul. Tracer rounds slicing the air, my team's shouts, and the split-second decision that saved lives, but nearly cost me mine. My palms were slick with sweat, not just from the memory, but from what lay ahead. My family's mansion in La Jolla, a place I hadn't seen in 5 years. Tucked in my duffel bag, hidden beneath a pile of civilian clothes, was the silver oak leaf of a lieutenant colonel, my latest promotion. Earned at 30, younger than almost anyone in the Army's cyber command. My family didn't know. They never cared to. Tomorrow, at my father's precious Apex Technologies conference, they'd find out exactly who I'd become. And God help me, I wasn't sure if I was ready for the fallout. The Pacific Ocean glinted to my left as I wound through the coastal roads, the sun dipping low, painting the sky in shades of fire. San Diego was all wealth and ambition, a city of tech moguls and Navy brass, where dreams either soared or crashed spectacularly. My family fit right in. Robert Harper, my father, a senior VP at Apex, had built a career that cast a shadow long enough to swallow me whole. My mother, Catherine, was his perfect counterpart, a socialite who measured success in stock options and square footage. And then there was Liam, my older brother, the golden boy who just clawed his way to VP, basking in their approval, while I was the disappointment who chose fatigues over a corner office. They thought I was still a major, pushing papers in some dusty outpost, wasting my potential. They had no idea I was the Pentagon's liaison for a $2,500,000,000 zero-cent cybersecurity contract. Their contract. The irony was so sharp it almost hurt. I flicked on the radio, hoping for distraction, but some pop song about heartbreak only made my thoughts spiral. 3 weeks ago, I'd been in a safe house in Dubai, staring down a laptop screen as my team traced a cyber attack to a foreign syndicate. We'd stopped it, barely, but not before a hit squad tracked me to a back alley. I could still feel the knife grazing my ribs, the hot breath of a man I'd never see again as I disarmed him. My CO, Brigadier General Claire Thompson, had called it a miracle I walked away. "You're a damn force, Harper," she'd said, pinning the oak leaf to my uniform. "Youngest lieutenant colonel in Cyber Command. Don't let it go to your head." But it wasn't pride driving me now. It was something darker. Anger, maybe, or the need to prove them wrong. My family had spent years dismissing me, and tomorrow I'd stand in their world, not as Emma Harper, the failure, but as Lieutenant Colonel Harper, the woman who held their future in her hands. The mansion came into view, a sprawling Mediterranean-style estate perched on a cliff overlooking the ocean. White stucco walls, red-tiled roofs, and manicured lawns screamed money, the kind of money my father had chased since I was a kid. I pulled into the driveway, the gravel crunching under my tires, and killed the engine. For a moment, I just sat there, staring at the front door, the same one I'd run through as a kid with skinned knees and big dreams. Back then, I was their prodigy. Straight A's, debate team captain, Ivy League acceptance letters. But the moment I chose ROTC over an MBA, I became invisible. No photos of my commissioning ceremony hung on their walls. No medals or citations sat on their shelves. To them, I was a ghost who'd haunted their perfect narrative. I grabbed my duffel and stepped out, the sea breeze cool against my skin. The weight of the bag felt heavier than it should, the hidden insignia, a secret I wasn't ready to share, not yet. I took a deep breath, squared my shoulders like I was heading into a briefing, and walked to the door. Before I could knock, it swung open, and there was my mother, Catherine, in a tailored dress that probably cost more than my monthly pay. Her smile was tight, the kind you give a stranger you're forced to be polite to. "Emma, you made it," she said, her voice clipped, not moving to hug me. She turned back toward the kitchen, leaving the door open. "Liam's on his way. He just got promoted again, you know. Vice president now." Swallowed the sting and followed her inside. The house was a time capsule. Same marble floors, same crystal chandelier, same faded family photos lining the hallway. There I was at 16, grinning in my cheerleader uniform, not a trace of the woman I'd become. My mother was already back at the stove, stirring something that smelled like rosemary and wealth. Your brother's doing so well, she went on, not looking at me, is leading Apex's biggest project now. Victoria Lang herself picked him. Victoria Lang, the CEO of Apex Technologies, was a legend in the defense industry, a woman who turned a startup into a global powerhouse. My mother said her name like it was a prayer. But she didn't know I'd been emailing Victoria for months, coordinating the very project Liam thought he owned. I set my bag down by the staircase, my fingers brushing the canvas where the uniform was buried. That's great for Liam, I said, my voice steady despite the knot in my chest. I'll have to congratulate him. My mother didn't respond, just kept stirring. The silence was louder than words, a reminder that my life, my career, didn't matter here. I wandered into the living room, trailing my fingers along the furniture, the same leather sofa where I'd once told my parents about my ROTC scholarship. My father's face had twisted like I'd betrayed him. The military's for people without options, Emma, he'd said. You're smarter than that. Even then, they'd been grooming Liam to follow in Dad's footsteps at Apex, while I was expected to fall in line or fade away. Upstairs, my old bedroom was a museum of who I used to be. Cheerleading trophies, debate medals, a framed acceptance letter from Stanford I'd never used. No photos of my deployments, no shadow box of my ranks. No clippings about the cyber attack I'd stopped at 24, saving US satellites from a Chinese hack. I sat on the quilted bedspread, the same one I'd cried on after that fight with my parents about ROTC. They'd wanted me to join Apex, to climb the corporate ladder like Liam, who'd soaked up their praise like a sponge. I unzipped my duffel and pulled out the garment bag, my dress uniform folded inside. The silver oak leaf caught the light, a symbol of everything I'd fought for. Tomorrow, at Apex's annual conference, I'd walk into their world, not as their failure, but as the officer who could make or break their $2,500,000,000 0-cents deal. The thought sent a shiver through me, part dread, part anticipation. The doorbell rang, snapping me out of my thoughts. Liam had arrived, probably with his wife, Megan, in tow, both of them dressed like they'd stepped out of a Forbes magazine spread. I hung the uniform in the closet, hiding it behind old dresses, and took a moment to steady myself. Downstairs, I'd face another dinner of their judgment, their smug certainty that I'd chosen wrong. But tonight, I'd play their game. Tomorrow, I'd rewrite the rules. The dining room was a battlefield. The long mahogany table set with crystal glasses and my mother's best china. Liam sat at one end, his suit jacket slung over the chair, his Rolex glinting as he gestured animatedly. Megan, elegant in a silk blouse, nodded along, her smile practiced. My cousin Sophie was there too, a hedge fund manager who'd just closed a $10 million 0-cents deal. She gave me a warm hug, the only genuine welcome I'd gotten. Emma, it's been too long, she said, her eyes kind but clueless about my world. My mother beamed at Sophie. You remember Sophie, Emma? She just bought a penthouse downtown, ocean views, 3 bedrooms. The comparison was unspoken but clear. Sophie was winning at life and I was not. My father, Robert, sat at the head of the table, scrolling through work emails on his phone despite my mother's glares. So, Dad, Liam started, steering the conversation as always. I'm leading the Titan project now. Victoria handpicked me, says my vision's going to fast-track it. He shot me a glance, making sure I was listening. I smiled thinly, knowing Titan was the code name for the cybersecurity contract I controlled. If only he knew I had the power to approve or reject every move he made. That's my boy, my father said, his voice thick with pride. Victoria doesn't trust just anyone. You must have impressed her. Liam leaned back, smirking. It's the same project you've been working on, Dad. I'm streamlining it, cutting through the red tape. Victoria says my approach is revolutionary. My mother jumped in, her eyes sparkling. Tell them about your team, Liam. How many people report to you now? Liam puffed up. 15, including 3 senior engineers who weren't thrilled about answering to someone younger. But they got over it when they saw my results. I took a sip of water, my jaw tight. My mother turned to me, her smile thinning. Emma, how's your job? Still at the same rank? The word job was a jab, as if my career was a hobby. Things are going well, I said, keeping my tone neutral. My father looked up from his phone, vague as ever. Still a captain or something? I nearly laughed at how little he knew. Something like that? I said, letting him think what he wanted. My mother pressed on. Sophie's penthouse is stunning, Emma. You should see it. Building equity, establishing roots. That's what young people should do, not move around every few years. The dig at my military life stung, but I'd heard it before. I'd lived in 6 states and 3 countries in 8 years, each move a mission, each mission a step toward who I was now. My father shifted the topic, mercifully. Tomorrow's a big day. Victoria Lang's visiting our branch. Huge opportunity. The Pentagon's sending some officer for the Titan review, probably a mid-level nobody. I suppressed a smile. Knowing I was that officer sounds interesting, I said, feigning ignorance. Liam scoffed. Military types are all the same. Follow orders, check boxes. They don't get the business side. We'll run circles around them. Sophie frowned. Liam, that's not fair. But he was on a roll. Come on, Sophie. The military's a fallback for people who can't cut it in the real world. No offense, Emma, but you know it's true. My mother nodded, her voice soft but cutting. We always knew you were so bright, Emma. That's why it was such a shock when you chose that path. I pushed my food around my plate, the words slicing deeper than I'd expected. What exactly do you think I do in the army? I asked, my voice calm but edged. My father shrugged. Push papers. Follow protocols. Important, sure, but not challenging for someone like you. Liam laughed. 10 years from now, you'll still be saluting some general while I'm running Apex. The room felt smaller, the air thick with their certainty that I'd failed. Sophie tried to defend me. Emma's doing what she loves. That counts for something. My mother sighed dramatically. A waste. That's what it is. All that potential. Your teachers said you could have run a company, Emma. I focused on my plate, the familiar ache of their rejection settling in. They didn't know about the nights I'd spent in bunkers, decoding enemy transmissions. They didn't know about the lives I'd saved, the systems I'd protected. They didn't know because they'd never asked. As dessert was served, my father mentioned the conference again. This Titan contract could make my career, Emma. 30 years at Apex and this is my shot at the C-suite? I nodded, knowing my role as liaison gave me more sway over his future than he realized. Later, in my childhood bedroom, I listened to the house settle, the distant murmur of my parents praising Liam. He's exceptional, my mother said. Victoria sees his potential. I pulled the oak leaf from my bag, its weight grounding me. Tomorrow they'd see me, really see me. Sleep didn't come. The glow-in-the-dark stars on my ceiling, relics of a simpler time, mocked me. I remembered the night I told my parents about ROTC, my sophomore year at UC Berkeley. I'd clutched the brochure, my voice shaking as I explained how it would pay for college and give me a purpose. The military? My father had barked. That's for people who can't get real jobs, Emma, my mother had chimed in, her voice pleading. What about business school? You always said you wanted to work at Apex. I hadn't. They had. When I stood my ground, the dismissal began. My commissioning ceremony was attended only by Sophie, who drove from LA to be there. My parents had work commitments. Liam's first promotion at Apex was framed on their wall, while my military portrait sat in a drawer. But I'd thrived despite them. At 23, as a captain, I'd been tapped for a special cyber unit. By 24, I'd stopped a hack that could have crippled US satellites, earning a commendation. At 26, I was a major, leading a task force that neutralized a Russian cyber offensive. Claire Thompson, then a colonel, saw something in me. "You think like no one else, Harper," she'd said after a grueling exercise. "That's your edge." She'd pushed me to pursue a lead others ignored, uncovering a plot to breach Pentagon servers. That operation got me to Lieutenant Colonel, the youngest in Cyber Command's history. Claire, now a brigadier general, had recommended me for the Apex liaison role. "You speak both languages, military and corporate," she'd said. "You're perfect for this." The Apex contract was massive, $2,500,000,000, 0 cents, to build next-gen cybersecurity for military systems. As liaison, I had final say on designs, budgets, even staffing. I was overseeing my father's and brother's work, and they had no idea. The thought was almost too much, a mix of vindication and dread. I got out of bed, pulled my uniform from the closet, and ran my fingers over the ribbons, each one a story my family didn't know. The oak leaf gleamed, a reminder of what I'd earned. My father had once said, "Ranks don't matter in the real world, Emma. It's about what you do." Tomorrow, he'd see exactly what I'd done. I checked my phone, the screen lighting up with an encrypted email from Claire. "Watch your back," it read. "Intel suggests a mole at Apex. Titans compromised." My stomach dropped. A leak could tank the project, my career, and national security. I'd already survived one attempt on my life for exposing a similar threat. Was this related? I couldn't shake the feeling that danger was closer than I thought. As dawn broke, I dressed with precision, each button and pin a ritual of control. The mirror showed a woman who'd faced worse than family judgment. I pinned the oak leaf to my collar, my resolve hardening. This wasn't about revenge. It was about being seen. Downstairs, my family was already gone, headed to Apex separately. They didn't know I'd be there, let alone in what capacity. I drove to Apex's headquarters, a glass monolith overlooking the bay. The reserved spot marked military liaison felt like a small victory. I straightened my uniform, the oak leaf catching the morning light, and stepped out. Security was tight, as expected for a facility handling classified tech. The guard snapped to attention. "Good morning, Lieutenant Colonel," one said, checking my ID. "You're expected in the executive conference room." I nodded, my boots echoing on the marble floor as I passed curious employees. The elevator ride to the top floor was silent, my mind racing. A black SUV had followed me for 2 blocks on the way here. Coincidence? Or something more? The doors opened, and there was Liam, tablet in hand, reviewing notes. His eyes flicked up, then widened, his jaw dropping as he saw my uniform, the oak leaf unmistakable. "Emma? What the hell? Why are you here? And what's that on your shoulder?" His voice was sharp, laced with panic. "Good morning, Liam," I said, my tone clipped, professional. "I'm here for the Titan review." Before he could respond, my father rounded the corner, mid-conversation with 2 suits. He froze, his face a kaleidoscope of shock, confusion, and embarrassment. "Emma, what is this? Why are you in uniform?" His eyes darted to the oak leaf, then to his colleagues, who were staring. "Dad?" I said, nodding. "I'm heading to the conference room. Meeting starts in 15. One of the suits, a woman with a legal badge named Karen Walsh, stepped forward. "Lieutenant Colonel, we weren't told you'd be here in person. It's an honor." My father's face paled. "Lieutenant Colonel? Emma, what's going on?" I kept my composure, aware of the growing crowd. "Victoria will explain everything if you'll excuse me." I walked away, their whispers trailing me like smoke. The conference room was buzzing, staff setting up projectors and water pitchers. A young woman nearly dropped a tray when she saw me. "Lieutenant Colonel, we thought you'd be on video call. Do you need anything?" I shook my head, taking my seat at the head of the table, the plaque reading military liaison in front of me. Executives filtered in, their deference a stark contrast to last night's dinner. My father and Liam sat across the room, their faces tight with confusion. At 9 o'clock sharp, Victoria Lang swept in, her presence commanding silence. She scanned the room, her gaze landing on me. A smile broke across her face. Lieutenant Colonel Harper, what a surprise. I thought we were doing this over Zoom. I stood, shaking her hand. I was in town, ma'am. Thought I'd make the most of it. She nodded, impressed. Smart move. Your presence will set the tone. She turned to the room. For those unaware, Lieutenant Colonel Harper is the Pentagon's liaison for Project Titan. She has final authority on all technical and strategic decisions. My father's jaw hit the floor. Liam looked like he'd been punched. Victoria continued, oblivious to the family drama. Good morning, Lieutenant Colonel. Your insights are critical today. The meeting kicked off, team leads presenting updates, all eyes on me when technical questions arose. I answered with precision, drawing on years of missions and late nights in war rooms. Halfway through, my phone buzzed. A coded alert from my team. A live hack attempt on Titan's servers happening now. My pulse spiked, but I kept my face neutral, typing a response under the table to initiate countermeasures. The mole was active, and I was running out of time. Liam's turn came, his voice shaky as he presented his revolutionary interface plan. I asked 3 pointed questions, exposing flaws in his design, not to humiliate, but to protect the project. These gaps need addressing, I said, my tone firm. Submit revisions by Friday. Liam's face burned, my father's eyes wide as he watched his daughter correct his son in front of Apex's elite. Victoria nodded approvingly. Lieutenant Colonel Harper's right. Precision is non-negotiable. As the meeting wrapped, she pulled me aside. Your reputation's well earned, Harper. General Thompson wasn't exaggerating. My father lingered nearby, desperate to talk, but I had a hack to stop and a mole to catch. Tomorrow would change everything, but for now, I was Lieutenant Colonel Emma Harper, and I had a job to do. The conference room at Apex Technologies buzzed with a tension so thick I could have cut it with a knife. The air was heavy with the scent of fresh coffee and the faint hum of the projector, but all I could focus on was the coded alert pulsing on my phone, buried in my pocket. Intrusion detected. Titan servers compromised. Immediate action required. My heart kicked into overdrive, but I kept my face a mask of calm, my hands steady as I scribbled notes on the legal pad in front of me. Across the table, my father, Robert, sat rigid, his eyes darting between me and the executive, still reeling from the revelation that his daughter, Lieutenant Colonel Emma Harper, was the Pentagon's liaison for Project Titan, the $2,500,000,000 0 cents cybersecurity contract his entire career hinged on. My brother Liam, his face a mix of shock and resentment, gripped his tablet like it was a lifeline. His earlier bravado shattered after I dissected his presentation. Victoria Lang, Apex's CEO, stood at the head of the room, her voice crisp as she moved through the agenda, oblivious to the family drama unfolding in her midst. But I wasn't here for family. I was here to protect a project that could save lives, or end them if the mole Claire warned me about wasn't stopped. The alert meant someone was trying to breach Titan servers right now, in real time, while I sat in a room full of suits who thought cybersecurity was just fancy code for firewalls. My fingers itched to pull out my phone and coordinate with my team, but I couldn't, not with every eye in the room flicking to me whenever a technical question arose. I'd already caught a live hack mid-meeting, rerouting it through a secure channel to my cyber command unit in DC, but this new alert was different. It wasn't just a probe, it was a full-scale assault, and the timing screamed sabotage. The encrypted email from Claire last night echoed in my mind. Mole at Apex, Titans compromised. Was the traitor in this room? I scanned the faces, engineers, VPs, my own family, searching for a tell, a nervous glance, anything. Nothing. But I had learned long ago that the most dangerous enemies were the ones you didn't see coming. Victoria's voice cut through my thoughts. Lieutenant Colonel Harper, your thoughts on the integration timeline? Every head turned to me, including my father's, his expression a mix of disbelief and something new. Fear, maybe? That I held his future in my hands. I leaned forward, my voice steady despite the chaos in my head. The timeline's aggressive, but feasible, provided we address the vulnerabilities in the current prototype. My team's analysis flagged inconsistencies in the encryption protocols, potential backdoors that could be exploited. I kept my tone neutral, but the implication landed like a grenade. The room shifted, engineers exchanging uneasy glances. Liam's jaw tightened. He'd been responsible for those protocols. My father's pen froze mid-note. Victoria raised an eyebrow, her sharp gaze locking onto me. Backdoors? That's a serious accusation, Colonel. Can you elaborate? I hesitated, weighing how much to reveal without tipping off the mole. Our audits detected unauthorized access points in the code, I said, choosing my words carefully. They could allow an external actor to bypass security, potentially crippling the system. I recommend a full review before we proceed. The room erupted in murmurs. An older engineer, Paul Grayson, scoffed, his skepticism dripping. With all due respect, Colonel, you're young enough to be my daughter. Our team's been at this for years. If there were backdoors, we'd know. The challenge hung in the air, a reminder that my age and gender made some people question my authority, no matter my rank. I met his gaze, unblinking. Respectfully, Mr. Grayson, my team stopped a similar exploit last year that nearly took down NORAD's servers. Experience isn't the issue, attention to detail is. The room went quiet. Victoria nodded, impressed. Lieutenant Colonel Harper's team has my full confidence. Paul, coordinate with her unit for that review, no delays. Grayson's face reddened, but he nodded. Liam stared at his tablet, his knuckles white. My father looked like he wanted to disappear. I felt a flicker of satisfaction, but it was drowned out by the buzzing of my phone again. Another alert. The hack was escalating, and I was running out of time to act without blowing my cover. I typed a quick message to my team under the table. Lockdown servers, trace origin, suspect insider. If the mole was here, I couldn't let them know I was onto them. As the meeting broke for lunch, Victoria approached me, her heels clicking on the polished floor. Colonel, your presence is a game changer. I'd like you to join me for a private briefing after this. We need to discuss those vulnerabilities in detail. Her tone was warm but firm, a woman who didn't waste time. I nodded, my mind racing. Of course, ma'am. I'll be ready. She smiled, then turned to greet another executive, leaving me alone with my thoughts. And my family. My father hovered nearby, his face a storm of emotions. Liam was already halfway out the door, muttering to an aide. I caught Sophie's eye across the room. She gave me a small, encouraging nod, but even she didn't know the full scope of what I was juggling. I slipped into the hallway, needing a moment to breathe, but the black SUV from this morning flashed in my mind. It had tailed me for 2 blocks, too deliberate to be random. I'd memorized the plate, sent it to my team, but no hits yet. Was it connected to the hack? The assassination attempt in Dubai 3 weeks ago had been too close. A knife to my ribs, a bullet grazing my arm. I'd taken down the attacker, but the memory kept me sharp, paranoid. I checked my surroundings, a habit drilled into me by years of deployments. The hallway was empty, but the hairs on my neck stood up. Something was off. Back in the conference room, the afternoon session kicked off with Liam's second presentation. He was visibly shaken, his voice cracking as he outlined his team's interface updates. I watched him closely, not just as his sister, but as the liaison who could pull the plug on his work. His slides were slick, but the numbers didn't add up. Latency issues, unaddressed bugs. I raised my hand, cutting him off mid-sentence. Liam, your data shows a 15% performance drop under stress tests. That's unacceptable for military-grade systems. Can you explain? His eyes flashed with anger, but he couldn't hide his panic. It's within acceptable parameters, he stammered. I leaned forward, my voice cold. Not for a $2,500,000,000 0 cents contract. Fix it by end of week, or I'll recommend reassigning your team. The room went silent. Victoria's lips twitched, almost a smile. My father's face was ashen, his pen trembling. Liam looked like he wanted to strangle me, but he nodded, defeated. I hated doing it, but this wasn't personal. Titan was too critical to fail. My phone buzzed again, another alert. The hack had breached a secondary server, accessing classified specs. My team was fighting it, but they needed my input. I excused myself, citing a Pentagon call, and stepped into a secure office nearby. The moment the door closed, I dialed my deputy, Captain Ruiz. "Talk to me," I said, my voice low. "It's bad, ma'am," he replied. "They're using Apex credentials. Someone inside is feeding them access." My blood ran cold. The mole was closer than I'd thought. I returned to the meeting just as Victoria announced a break. My father caught my arm as I passed. "Emma, we need to talk now." His voice was strained, his eyes searching mine for answers. Liam was behind him, arms crossed, his anger barely contained. I nodded, leading them to a private office, my mind still on the hack. The door closed and the air turned suffocating. "What the hell was that?" Liam snapped, his face red. "You come in here in that uniform, tearing apart my work in front of everyone? Are you trying to ruin me?" I kept my stance rigid, hands behind my back. "I'm doing my job, Liam. If your work doesn't meet spec, it's my responsibility to call it out." My father stepped forward, his voice shaking. "Lieutenant Colonel? Emma, when did this happen? Why didn't you tell us?" I met his gaze, years of hurt rising to the surface. "I was promoted 3 months ago. I didn't tell you because you never cared to ask. Not about my deployments, my commendations, nothing." My mother, Catherine, had slipped into the room, her face pale. "We didn't know," she said, her voice trembling. "How could we know if you never said anything?" I laughed, a sharp, bitter sound. "I sent you invitations to every ceremony. I emailed you about my missions when they were declassified. You ignored them all. Last night, you didn't ask a single question about my life. It was all Liam, Sophie, Apex." My father flinched, his shoulders sagging. We thought you were wasting your potential. The military made me who I am," I cut in. "I stopped a cyber attack that could have crashed our satellites. I led a team that saved lives. I'm 30 and I'm a lieutenant colonel overseeing your company's biggest contract. That's not a waste." Liam stepped forward, his voice low, accusing. "So this was your plan? Show up, humiliate us, take over? You've got Victoria eating out of your hand." I shook my head. "This isn't about you, Liam. It's about national security. If you can't handle scrutiny, maybe you're not cut out for Titan." Catherine's eyes welled up. "We always wanted the best for you, Emma." I held her gaze, unflinching. "No, you wanted what was best for you. You wanted me to be Liam, to follow Dad's path. When I didn't, you wrote me off." The words hung heavy, the truth raw and undeniable. My father sank into a chair, his face a mix of guilt and shock. "A lieutenant colonel," he murmured. "That's equivalent to my level at Apex," I nodded. "Roughly, but my decisions affect lives, not just profits." Before anyone could respond, my phone buzzed again. A text from Ruiz. "Mole traced to Apex exec level. Narrowed to 3 suspects. One's your father." My stomach lurched. I kept my face neutral, but the room spun. Was it possible? My father, the mole? He'd been with Apex for 30 years, his whole life tied to its success, but the evidence was mounting. His access, his late-night emails, his obsession with the Titan contract. I needed proof, and I needed it fast. "I have another meeting," I said, my voice steady despite the storm inside. "We'll talk later." I left them standing there, my heart pounding as I headed to the secure office to call Ruiz. The office was a small, soundproof room with a single window overlooking the bay. I locked the door and dialed. "Ruiz? What have we got?" His voice was tense. "The credentials used in the hack match a senior VP's access code. Your father's one of 3 with that clearance. The others are Karen Walsh and Thomas Bailey." I closed my eyes, fighting the nausea. "Any hard evidence?" I asked. "Not yet, but the hack's targeting Titan's core algorithms. If they get through, it's game over. Systems down, billions lost, and worse, military assets exposed. I nodded, my mind racing. Keep digging. I'll handle things here. As I hung up, a knock startled me. Victoria stood at the door, her expression serious. Colonel, we need to talk, now. I opened the door, my pulse spiking. Had she caught wind of the hack? What's wrong? I asked. She stepped inside, closing the door. I just got a call from the Pentagon. They're threatening to pull funding if we don't deliver a secure prototype by tomorrow. What's going on with those back doors you mentioned? I took a breath, choosing my words carefully. We're handling it, ma'am. My team's tracing the source of the vulnerabilities. I'll have a full report by tonight. She studied me, her eyes sharp. I trust you, Harper. But if this goes south, it's not just Apex that suffers. It's you too. I nodded, the weight of her words settling on my shoulders. As she left, I checked my watch. 1,700 hours. Dinner with Victoria and my family was in 2 hours, and I had to neutralize the hack before then. I texted Ruiz, escalate lockdown, run decoy protocol. I'm going dark. Going dark meant no comms, no trace, just me and my laptop in a race against time. I pulled up the Titan servers on a secure terminal, my fingers flying as I traced the intrusion. The code was sophisticated, military grade, but sloppy in places. Someone was rushing. I isolated the breach, redirecting it to a sandbox environment, but not before catching a glimpse of the hacker's signature. Viper. The same signature from the Dubai attack. My blood ran cold. This wasn't just a mole, it was personal. The dinner was at a rooftop restaurant overlooking the San Diego skyline, the kind of place where power deals were made over $200 0 cents plates. Victoria had reserved a private room, and my family was already there when I arrived, still in my uniform, the oak leaf gleaming under the soft lighting. My father stood to greet me, his handshake awkward like he was meeting a stranger. Catherine's smile was forced, her eyes darting to my insignia. Liam sat stiffly, his wife Megan beside him, her expression unreadable. Sophie gave me a warm smile, but even she sensed the tension. Victoria raised a glass as I sat. To Lieutenant Colonel Harper, whose expertise is keeping us on track. My family's faces froze, their discomfort palpable. I raised my glass, my mind still on Viper and the hack. The conversation started light, Victoria asking about Apex's progress, but I could barely focus. My phone, on silent, buzzed with updates from Ruiz. The hack was contained, but the mole's identity was still unclear. I glanced at my father, his hands fidgeting with his napkin. Was it him? The thought made me sick, but I couldn't ignore the evidence. Liam leaned forward, his voice low but sharp. So, Emma, how long have you been playing this game, showing up to humiliate us? Victoria's eyebrows shot up, but I kept my cool. I'm not playing, Liam. I'm doing my job. If you feel humiliated, maybe it's because you underestimated me. Catherine gasped, her hand flying to her chest. Emma, that's unfair. We've always supported you. I set my glass down, my voice calm but razor sharp. Supported me? You skipped my commissioning ceremony. You ignored my emails about my deployments. Last night, you called my career a waste. My father's face crumpled, guilt written in every line. We didn't know, he said, his voice breaking. We thought you were stuck. I leaned forward, my eyes locked on his. I'm not stuck, Dad. I'm a lieutenant colonel. I stopped a cyber attack that could have started a war. I'm here because I earned it, not because of you. Victoria cleared her throat, sensing the tension. Colonel, your father's lucky to have you on this project. His team's work is critical, but your oversight is what makes it viable. My father nodded, but his eyes were distant, haunted. I wondered if he was thinking about the hack, about what he might be hiding. The dinner dragged on, the food tasteless as I monitored my phone under the table. Ruiz's latest message was a bombshell. Access code traced to Robert Harper's terminal, 80% confidence. My heart stopped. I looked at my father, laughing at something Victoria said, and felt a wave of betrayal. But 80% wasn't enough. I needed certainty. As dessert was served, I excused myself, slipping into the restaurant's private lounge to call Ruiz. Give me everything, I said, my voice low. The code was used from your father's office last night, he said, but someone else could have accessed it. We're pulling logs now. I nodded, my mind racing. Keep it quiet. If it's him, I'll handle it. I hung up, my hands shaking. The idea of my father as the mole was unthinkable, but the pieces fit. His access, his late nights, his desperation for the C-suite. I returned to the table, my face a mask, but Victoria caught my eye. Everything okay, Colonel? She asked, her tone probing. Just a routine check-in, I lied, forcing a smile. The dinner ended with Victoria pulling me aside. I don't know what's going on with your family, Harper, but you're handling it like a pro. Keep it up. I nodded, grateful for her trust, but my mind was elsewhere. As my family left, my father lingered, his expression soft. Emma, I'm sorry. I was wrong about you. Can we talk tomorrow? I nodded, but my heart was heavy. Sure, Dad. 900, your office. He smiled, hopeful, unaware I was about to investigate him for treason. Back at the mansion, I couldn't sleep. The glow-in-the-dark stars mocked me again, but now they were joined by Viper's shadow. I pulled my laptop from my bag and dug into the server logs myself, cross-referencing access times with my father's schedule. At 200, I found it. A login from his terminal at 3 a.m., hours after he'd left the office. Someone was using his credentials, but relief flooded me, followed by dread. If not my father, then who? Karen Walsh? Thomas Bailey? Or someone closer, someone I hadn't suspected? I thought of Liam, his resentment, his access to the project. No, it couldn't be. But doubt gnawed at me. And the next morning, I arrived at Apex early, my uniform crisp, my resolve ironclad. The black SUV was back, parked across the street. I snapped a photo, sent it to Ruiz, and walked inside. The conference room was already filling, but my focus was on the secure terminal in the corner. I logged in, pulling up the latest trace. The hack had been stopped, but the mole was still active. Their last attempt just hours ago. I froze as a new alert flashed. Physical breach detected. Server room accessed. My blood ran cold. Someone was inside Apex right now, tampering with Titan's hardware. I bolted from the room, my boots pounding the hallway as I radioed security. Lock down the server room, now! I reached the restricted area, flashing my clearance to the guards. The door was ajar, a faint hum of machinery inside. I drew my sidearm, a precaution I rarely used, and stepped in. The room was dark, racks of servers blinking in the gloom. A shadow moved at the far end, and I froze. Identify yourself, I shouted, my voice echoing, no response. I advanced, my heart hammering, and caught a glimpse of a figure slipping through a side door. I gave chase, but they were gone, leaving behind a tampered server, its cables cut. Security swarmed the room, but the intruder had vanished. I called Ruiz. They're escalating. Physical sabotage now. I need a full sweep. He cursed. We're on it, ma'am, but the Pentagon's breathing down our necks. They want answers by noon. I checked my watch. 10:30. I had 90 minutes to save Titan, my career, and maybe my family. Back in the conference room, Victoria was waiting, her face grim. Colonel, we've got a problem. The Pentagon's threatening to pull the plug. What's happening? I took a breath, knowing I couldn't hide the truth much longer. We've got a mole, ma'am. They're sabotaging Titan. I'm handling it, but I need your trust. She studied me, then nodded. You've got it. But fix this, Harper, fast. I returned to my seat, my mind racing. My father and Liam were there, their faces pale, sensing the stakes. As the meeting resumed, I caught Liam's eye, his expression unreadable. Was he hiding something? The thought made my chest ache, but I pushed it aside. I had a job to do. By noon, Ruiz sent a breakthrough. Mole identified. Karen Walsh. Access logs, emails, offshore accounts. She's Viper's contact. Relief and rage surged through me. Not my father, not Liam, but Karen, the legal VP who'd greeted me so warmly, was selling us out. I forwarded the evidence to Victoria and the Pentagon, my fingers trembling. At 1300, security escorted Karen from the building, her face a mask of defiance. The hack was neutralized, Titan secured, but the damage was done. My family had seen me in action, and there was no going back. In my father's office at 1400, the air was different. Less hostile, more fragile. Catherine was there, her eyes red. Liam stood by the window, his shoulders slumped. My father spoke first, his voice raw. Emma, we were wrong about everything. You're not just our daughter, you're a damn hero. I swallowed hard, the words I'd wanted for years hitting like a wave. I didn't do this to prove you wrong, I said. I did it because it's who I am. Catherine stepped forward, her voice breaking. We should have been there. Your ceremonies, your awards, we failed you. I nodded, the hurt still there but softening. Liam met my eyes, his voice quiet. I was a jerk, Em. You're incredible. I could never do what you do. I felt the weight of years lift, not gone, but lighter. We start over, I said. No competition, no expectations, just family. My father extended his hand, then pulled me into a hug, the first in years. Lieutenant Colonel Harper, he said, a faint smile breaking through. I'm so damn proud. I hugged him back, tears stinging my eyes. The mole was gone, Titan was safe, and my family was finally seeing me, not the failure, not the ghost, but me. 6 months later, I stood in my DC penthouse, the Potomac glittering outside my window. My family was there, laughing, sharing stories. My father held a framed article about Titan's success, my name in bold. Catherine brought her famous apple pie, her questions about my work genuine now. Liam, now my collaborator on Titan, raised a glass. To Emma, who showed us what real strength looks like. General Claire Thompson, my mentor, stood beside me, her presence grounding. To Emma, she echoed, who never needed their approval, but earned it anyway. I raised my glass, peace settling in my chest. I'd fought for this, not just their respect, but my own. And I'd won.